Hi there everybody, I love indie RPGs. There's just something about them. I can't really put my finger on what it is, I just really like them. Something about like scouring all through Steam, looking around, seeing what sorts of gems are out there and everything. It's almost like a treasure hunt, you know? And it actually kind of gave me that like sense of discovery that I used to have as a kid whenever I go to Toys R Us and I'd look around to try to find that perfect game that I wanted. And here, now, I think that I found something that y'all might like. If you're a fan of traditional, simple turn-based JRPGs of yesteryear, then I have a game for you. Sometimes I feel like JRPGs these days are just too complicated for their own good, and I long for those simpler times of just exploring and battling. And that's exactly what you're going to find here. In today's video, sponsored by Clock Watchers and highlighting Heroes of Drakemire, who released for the PC on Steam. Personally, I like all sorts of JRPGs. I like action, strategy, and even roguelikes. But my first love are traditional turn-based JRPGs, and this here is an old-school throwback to simpler times of my youth and childhood. I mean, my favorite series of all time is Dragon Quest, and I feel like the reason why I like it so much is because it's just so glorious in its simplicity. It doesn't try to pretend like it's something that it's not, and it does what it does really well. You know what you're getting yourselves into whenever you play a Dragon Quest game. You're going to be fighting simple but challenging turn-based battles while exploring complex dungeons filled to the brim with treasures as well as engaging and endearing story. And if I were to compare Heroes of Drakemire to anything, it would definitely be to an old-school Dragon Quest. So that's some pretty high praise as far as I'm concerned. The game stars Brutus, an aspiring knight who nobody actually takes seriously, as he sets off to prove himself as a true warrior, only to stumble upon an amnesiac wizard Endolf, and together they decide to head off into the big city to restore the mage's memory. Along the way though, they are joined up by Sofranra, a powerful archer who promises Brutus' grandfather that she'll protect him, much to Brutus' chagrin. The first thing that you're going to notice whenever you start it up are the chibi-based characters, the artwork, and the design. And while I'm not a huge fan of the art style myself, it is serviceable and it does its job well. And honestly, the art is really something that I can look past. This is from an indie RPG developer, and this is their very first RPG that they've ever made. And I do think that it's really important to support your indie developers. I say this all the time. I personally know exactly what it's like to work long and hard hours on a passion project, not knowing if it's going to do well. So I can definitely relate to having a personal passion project myself. Each character is cute in their own way, and the monsters themselves are adorable too. But don't let the cute art style and aesthetic fool you, because this is not baby's first RPG. There is definitely challenge to be had here. And while I never did get a game over, I definitely had some characters die on me, especially in the more challenging boss fights. The battle system itself is straightforward. Your health and MP is indicated on the left-hand side, while the enemies is conversely indicated on the right-hand side. So there's no confusion insofar as how much HP they have left, and you can keep track of your own easily enough too. The turn order gauge is on the bottom of the screen, and it works just the same way as it did in Final Fantasy X. The whole thing is extremely user-friendly, even down to selecting your attacks, because all of your skills and abilities show exactly what they do as far as their base damage, their MP cost, what body parts that they target, and what weaknesses they hit. So there is no guesswork to be had here. For instance, if you see an enemy wearing a helmet, you're not going to want to use your overhead slashing attack because that would be deflected by the helmet. You're going to want to use the attack that targets the body instead, as it will deal more damage even if the skill's base power itself is lower. This adds quite a bit of depth and strategy to what would otherwise be a pretty basic system. Another nice thing is that this is an RPG made by the fans, for the fans. You're not going to be bogged down with endless tutorials here, and there's no hand-holding at all either. You're just expected to know what to do right out of the gate. It respects your intelligence. And while maybe some younger players might not like that, I found it so refreshing. There's nothing more maddening than trying to start up a game and then having to sit through endless tutorials explaining that whenever you hit the right directional button, you walk right! Which I've actually seen in RPGs before, like, for God's sakes. Exploration is done in a really unique way. It's almost like you're moving like a piece on a board game. Essentially, each dungeon is a grid, and you begin at the start and have to find your way to the exit, while also collecting treasure, finding townsfolk lost in the woods, getting to that rest point, and then eventually stumbling towards the next town. You do this by choosing the square that you want your heroes to move to. Then, they'll go there on their own. As you pass over each square, the ones that you've moved across will light up, and the encounters on the lit squares will be drastically reduced as compared to the encounters on the darkened squares that you haven't yet crossed. Now, let me be very clear here. While it might not look it, this does feature full controller support on the PC. It's just that you might not think that it does because of the way that you move around. All the various treasures do show up on the map, so you know exactly where to go to get them. You'll also see the save points, the fast travel points, and the restoration fountains to heal up too. Though, to add to the challenge, the restoration fountains can only be used once per dungeon, so don't think that you can just kind of stand around the fountain and then grind there. For the grinding, you're going to want to hang around closer to town, as this is almost like a roguelike, insofar as you're going to want to venture out really slowly, taking some baby steps into the dungeons and grabbing a few treasures here and there. But then whenever your health gets low or a party member dies, you're going to want to head back to town, heal up, buy some more potions, maybe do some trading over at the rogue's house or upgrade at the blacksmith, and then head a little bit deeper into the dungeon until you finally conquer it. The upgrade system is very different than what I'm used to. Gold and currency don't really exist. Everything is instead based upon a bartering system, where you purchase items and potions with the loot that you find. Over at the blacksmith, you can upgrade your defense with helmets, shields, and boots and suits of armor that you come across, while your attacking skills are instead upgraded with the various weaponry that you find. This makes it so that you can't just grind against the enemies to get enough gold to purchase what you need, but instead really forces you to go out and explore and dive deep into the dungeons to find the rarer treasures so that you'll be able to strengthen up all of your characters and beat down your foes. Because as I said before, this is not a walk in the park. You're going to want to be as powerful as you possibly can to get through this. Now, let's talk about some room for improvement here. I know that the developer is going for old school challenge, but some of these battles can really drag. Either they occur far too often, or they're just too slow, or maybe a little bit of both. It just seems that it takes a bit too many battles to level up, so an option to fast forward through the battles would be so nice, or even just an auto battle selection. That alone would make a world of difference for the grind. Sometimes it really is nice to just kind of relax after a long day of work with a very simple RPG. One that doesn't require too much thought. One where you can just kind of turn off your brain, do some grinding, delve a little bit further into the dungeon, grab just one more piece of treasure, and just keep moving. This is a great casual pick up and play game where you're not going to lose your way. There's an in-game indicator showing you where your current quests are, so if you only just play for an hour or two after a stressful day at work, this is the perfect game for a busy adult. So that's it for my spotlight of Heroes of Drakemire, to be released for the PC over on Steam. If you like what you saw here, please be sure to click on the link in the video description to head on over to the Steam page and wishlist it and check it out for yourself. There's even a demo there that you can try out to see if you like it too. Please let me know what you think. Let's get a discussion going on here, and let's all talk and chat about it, because I'm always here in the comments too. And if you like what I do here on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon and sign up for early access to my videos and behind the scenes photographs. The link to it is in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.